How strong is Incantations in Elden Ring? Can we beat Elden Ring using Incantations as our main weapon? Join me today as we try to beat Elden Ring with Incantations. We need a face that fits the theme of our journey today. Who's more fitting than Megamind himself? I use the Prophet as the base of our character, as he has a lot of Fate and Arcane, which is the main stats that I'll be using throughout the run. You know the drill. I went to Fort Farret in Caelid to get our first talisman, the Radagon Sourceal. Then I used the Uji Katana I picked up in the Touch Catacombs and claimed our first free runes by killing Greol. I also needed her heart as I'll be using dragon incantations throughout the run. I needed some extra runes, so I tricked the Black Knight to go down the bridge that he is guarding. I will be using summons and NPCs throughout the run because our build is weak and heavily relies on taking aggro away from us so we can cast our incantations. With those simple preparation, I'm now ready to take on our first boss, Margit the Omen. For this fight, I used the NPC Rogier and summoned the Jellyfish Ashen. Both of them are really effective on taking aggro and give us plenty of time to cast our Rot and Ice Breath dragon incantations from afar. With that simple strat, we managed to take Margit down on our first attempt. I also took down this Erd Tree avatar in Weeping Peninsula to give us the shield crystal tier to avoid some of the damage, which will be useful throughout the run. I talked to Nephili Lu so I can summon her to fight against Godrek. With those preparations done, I'm now ready to fight our first Remembrance boss, Godrek the Grafted. For this fight, I still summoned another NPC, Nephili Lu, and summoned the Jellyfish Summon too. I used the same tactic I used against Margit. I stayed away, let our summons distract Godrek, and cast our incantation spells from afar. I mainly use Rot and Ice Breath Dragon Incantation to apply some negative status on Godrek, and use Lightning Strike from afar to damage him. With this strat, we took down our first Remembrance boss on one attempt. I befriended Bogard in Learning of the Lakes so we could buy boiled shrimps and crabs from him. We needed to tank some of the damage from enemies. I also went and get the seal that we will be using throughout the game, the Dragon Communion Seal. This seal enhances the damage from the Dragon Communion incantations, which are the primary incantation that I'll be using. I need to speak to one of Rani's followers to retrieve a useful summon that I'll be using throughout the run. I need to first take down Loretta. I summoned the wolves for this fight as they're aggressive enough to distract Loretta. I mainly use Lightning Incantation, which Loretta is weak to. We managed to take her down on our first attempt. I've collected Starlight Shards throughout the map, which will be useful later on retrieving our summon. I also retrieved the Faithful Scanga Talisman, which slightly enhances our incantation damage. While we are here, I also took care of this Falling Star Beast. This demonstrates how strong our damage is and how fragile we are too. Feeling prepared, I took on the Red Wolf of Radagon. I summoned the jellyfish to distract the dog. One rotten breath took out more than half of its health, and we took it down on our first attempt. I know that the main boss that I'll be fighting here does a lot of magic damage, so I donned this carrion armor which has some magic damage resistance. On the way to Arc Queen, I had to crush this annoying Carian knight guarding this elevator. I'm the only one who serves her. Now for our second remembrance boss, Renala. On our first phase, we only need to bring her down once. I panicked on her second phase and got distracted by the Bloodhound Knight that she summoned, which eventually killed us. On her second attempt, I still managed to bring her easily to her second phase, but a combination of her spells managed to take us down before I can even shoot my shot. Third time's the charm. I still managed to get her to her second phase easily, and managed to hurt her with a fully charged Rotten Breath on her second phase. It was a close call, but we also managed to clap her cheeks and took her down on her third attempt. I had to take down 2 remembrance bosses so I can gain access to Lindau Capital. Before we can enter, I had to take down the most annoying guard, the Draconic Tree Sentinel. I don't want any unnecessary stress today, so I use Poison Mist and blew one final breath behind him to take him down. I rushed to get into Lindell to retrieve a Seedbed Curse. I needed to get the summon that I'll be using mostly on this run. I need to do this before I take down Radon as well. This is a complicated step that we have to take to just get this summon. First, I talked to Rani, agreed to join her party, and talked to her followers. After that, I went and talked to Celavis privately on his tower. Here, he will ask us to give this potion to Nefeli Lu, the NPC that helped us defeat Godric. To get the summon, I'll need to do that. Instead of giving it to Nefeli, I went and talked to the Dung Eater in the round table hold. You need to have a Seedbed Curse to trigger him to ask us to release him from his prison in Lindau. Underground of Lindau, we can find the real Dung Eater banging its head in the wall. We released him and went back to the round table to read a message that he is challenging us to a fight in the outer moat of Lindau. Here, we find the Dung Eater killed our friend Bogard. The Dung Eater will then invade us. We fought and took down the Dung Eater. Then we go and talk to him at the round table again, and this time he will ask us to defile his body in his prison under Lindau. Instead of feeding him the Seedbed Curse that he is requesting, we will use the potion that Celavis gave us. After giving him the potion, he will be unresponsive. I then went back to Rani's Rise, and in front of her tower there's a secret passage, which we went under and discovered Celavis puppets. Here we can see that the Dung Eater's body is in it. After discovering Celavis' secret, we confronted him and we will offer to give us one of his puppets. We choose a random one and summon that puppet. I then rested the side of grace and went back to Celavis. Here he will be offering to sell us more puppets. And we can now buy the Dung Eater using the Starlight charge that I saved. It was really a complicated step to get the Dung Eater, but it's all worth it as he is a great summon to aggro most of our enemies, which is what we need for our build. After making sure that we don't miss out on getting our summon, I can now fight our third remembrance boss, Radon. Right as we enter his arena, we run away from him and went back towards Radon to disable his annoying bow attacks. I then summoned some random NPCs around the arena to distract Radon long enough to cast my incantations. I mainly use Rotten Breath Incantation from afar and Dragon Eyes. Right when he landed from doing his meteor attack, I rushed in and blew one final breath right on his face, taking him down on our first attempt. I need to upgrade my seal to max early. I only need the Somber Smithing Stone 7, which I can get only if I defeat this annoying boss, the Godskin Noble. I summoned the Dung Eater for this fight. He is aggressive enough as we want him to be. Since he is not upgraded yet, he did not last long. But that's fine, because we can handle ourselves. I used the pillars on the boss arena to block the Godskin Noble's rolling attack and blew a fully charged Dragon Breath in front of him. I then slapped on his cheeks with our Dragon Claw, taking him down on our first attempt. After defeating the Godskin Noble, I gained access to the rest of the Volcano Manor and retrieved the Somber Smithing Stone 7. I upgraded our seal to max and fought ourselves the Mimic tier. As we may see here, the Dung Eater summon is really good at taking aggro from us. I also need the Silver tier mask that the Mimic drop after defeating it. This mask increased our arcane by 8. I retrieved this book in the Stormhill Castle, which we can give to this turtle to buy the Black Flame Incantation. This incantation is great against high HP enemies as it does damage based on the percentage of their health. The more HP, the more damage it does. Confident with our fully upgraded seal and our summon, the Dung Eater, I took on Moog and the sewers of Lendel. Dung Eater proven his worth by giving us enough space to cast our incantation from afar. Safe from most of Moog's attack, I managed to freely blast him with our incantations and took him down on our first attempt. After defeating Moog, I got the Erdtree Favor Talisman +1. Feeling ready, I took on Golden Godfrey. I still use the Dung Eater for this fight. Golden Godfrey is really weak to lightning, which we took advantage and managed to slay him in under a minute. After defeating Godfrey, we now have 4 talisman slots. Before proceeding, I visited an old friend, Patches. I did not spare him this time. I took his ball bearing so I can buy Margit's Shackle, which I can use against Margit. Prepared and fully equipped, I faced our 4th Remembrance boss, Margit, the Omen King. Knowing that Margit is fast-moving boss and could easily take us out, I made sure to spawn the Dung Eater right away to distract him. This gives us enough time to cast our incantation at a safe distance. I was not able to use Margit's Shackle in time as he transitioned to his second phase quicker than I anticipated. His second phase didn't last long as well, as after breathing ice on his face, Dung Eater did the final blow and took down Margit in our first attempt. With the 4th talisman slot ready, I started working on getting the talisman I want to put in it. First, I fought and took down Commander O'Neill and Kaled. Upon defeat, he will drop the Broken Needle, which we will give to Gowry. He then fixes the needle and asks us to give it to this lady, Millicent, which cures her rot illness somehow. We then followed her until the Erdtree Grazing Hills. Here, we ended her journey and went back to Gowry, who is now crying. We then tapped him out and took the Phlox Canva Talisman. This greatly increases the damage for all of our incantations. Before proceeding to the snow area, I took down this magma worm, which gives us a dragon heart and also opened the way so we can let Alexander advance his quest. Feeling ready, I faced our 5th Remembrance boss, the Fire Giant. I will be summoning Alexander and the Dung Eater for this fight. They'll be great distracting the boss. Our first attempt did not go well. and like a glass cannon, I was smacked by the fire giant with one hit. On our second attempt, I made sure to stay near his feet to make sure that my incantations can hit him. After doing enough damage, we managed to bring him into his second phase. At the second phase, I aimed at his eyeballs at the first glance of him. I made sure to aim at his hands, on that way our dragon breath would hit him, and with that we took him down on our second attempt. After defeating the fire giant, we got sent to Farum Azula. Here we face one of my most hated boss, the Godskin duo. For this fight, I know that they are aggressive, so I summon the Dung Eater as soon as I can. I then run far away enough from them and started to cast my Rotten Breath from afar. I made sure to cast my incantation behind the pillars of the boss's arena. Luckily, these dragon blasts passed through the pillars. The Dung Eater surely did his best distracting these annoying bosses, and with his help I made the final dragon blast right on the face of the boss, and with that we took them down on our first attempt. After taking care of the most annoying boss, we can now fight our sixth remembrance boss, Malekith. Malekith's first phase was simple. I let the Dung Eater distract him and I blast him with my dragon breath through the pillars, and we made him transition to phase 2. This is where the fight begins. I know Malekith can kill us with 1 or 2 hits, so I made sure and made it my mission to run away when he sees me. I made sure to stay behind the pillars and blast him from afar. When the Dung Eater died, I was on panic mode, and I was running for my life. It was close, but not close enough. On our second attempt, we still easily got Malekith to transition to phase 2. This time I made sure to blast him when he is a bit near, so I don't waste FP. The Dung Eater was the MVP for this round. Right when he died, he still managed to get Malekith's attention long enough for me to do one final blast. With that, we took him down on our second attempt. With the Bringer of Death down, we got transported back to Lindell, which is in ruins. Here we humiliated the most delulu boss, Gideon. Before proceeding, I took the Earth Tree Favor +2 talisman. I also decided to sided with the Three Fingers, who branded our baddie with its will. Feeling prepared, I took on the first Elden Lord and our 7th Remembrance boss, Godfrey. I summoned Shabriri and the Dung Eater for this fight. The more distraction the better, because Godfrey is fast. I made sure to take full advantage of the tag team of my summons and blast Godfrey from a safe distance. With enough damage, we made him transition into his second phase. I made sure to avoid his suplex attack and started running away until my summons distract him. Even from afar, he keeps interrupting my incantations. At the final leg, he was so desperate to get me. Godfrey was like, "If you catch me, Ricky, if I catch you, Ricky meme." The Dung Eater made the final blow, and with that we took him down on our first attempt. Before facing the god of this game, I felt the need to have some great runes active for the fight. I decided to get Radahn's rune. Now to see if we can actually be worthy to be an Elden Lord, we challenged the current god of this round, the Edgelord Radagon. The Edgelord is really weak against fire, so I mainly use the Black Flame and the Dragon Fire Breath for this fight. He does a lot of damage too, but we do more damage and we took him down easily. Defeating the Edgelord Radagon, we can now face our 8th Remembrance boss, the Elden Beast. It's now a bit easier to move around the arena with turret, but it's also easy to get hit by the Elden Beast's sword, which killed us on our first attempt. On my second attempt, I'm now wearing the highest damage negation armor that I own, and increase my vigor to tank a lot of hits. I use Godric's rune this time to give me enough endurance to carry my heavy armor. Radagon is fairly easy, so we focus our attention on the Elden Beast. I noticed that every time we ride turret, the Elden Beast also moves fast and always moves around. I realized that the only viable damage dealing incantation is the magic blast. The fight was close, but yet so far. On our third attempt, I focused on using the Glintstone Breath as our main incantation to damage the boss. We were doing steady, but riding turret feels like a disadvantage. On our fourth attempt, I made sure to keep avoiding his attacks and focus on firing our magic blast at the boss. We are doing great until the Elden Beast do his ultimate move, the Elden Star, an annoying spell that chases you around. I really thought it was over for us, but we managed to persevere and finally took down the Elden Beast on our fourth attempt. We proved ourselves worthy enough to become an Elden Lord, but we always want more, so I decided to take out the rest of the Remembrance bosses. Next on our list is the 9th Remembrance boss, Regal Ancestor. This is the easiest Remembrance boss out of the 15. I really thought I took him down with that final blast, but he resurrected and still meet the same fate. Outfit check. This is Radon's armor. I really like to pair it with the Mimic Mask. Before taking on the next boss, I made sure to get the Purifying Crystal tier so we can nullify Mohg's ultimate skill. List Mohg, the Lord of Blood. Here I'm showcasing the incantation that we got from Malekith, the Black Blade, which takes a portion of the enemy's health when hit. Did you know that even though Mohg is the Lord of Blood, he is not immune to bleed damage? That's why I use the Swarm of Flies, which does bleed damage, and since the main stats that I'm leveling is Arcane, every time it procs it does a lot of damage. Remember, we got the Crystal tier to avoid Mohg's ultimate damage, but I forgot to equip it. With the Swarm of Flies and the final Black Blade blow, we finally took down Mohg on our first attempt. Next on our list, and the 11th Remembrance boss, Estelle. The only challenge on this fight is getting near Estelle. Even though Estelle is mostly made out of rock, he is weak to rot for some reason. With a couple of Rotten Breath, we took down Estelle on our first attempt. Before taking on the next boss, we have to take care of these simps, which we easily dispose of. Now we can face our 12th Remembrance boss, Leech Dragon 46. Just like any dragon we fought, we stayed away from his head where he does most of his attacks. It's ironic that we are fighting a dragon with a dragon spell. With a couple of shots of the dragon eyes and the fire blast, we took down the Leech Dragon on our first attempt. We're supposed to use this weapon to take on this next boss, but we're a Chad, so we're not gonna take it, and we're gonna defeat this boss with Incantations. Our 13th Remembrance boss, Rykard. I decided to try and use Mimic Tier for this fight. I donned Leonel's set since it has the highest fire resistance damage in this game. I prioritized staying under the giant snake and blew our dragon eyes at point blank range. With a few Dragon Breath attack, we managed to get him to his second phase. I focus on blowing the Dragon Eyes at him to apply the Frost effect, which Rykard is weak against. We were really close, but we ran out of healing flask by the end and Rykard took us down. On our second attempt, we are still using the Mimic Summon. I was prepared for his first phase, but I noticed that going in his lava staggers me and prevents me from casting most of my incantations, and I got slain on his first phase. Third time's a charm. This time I used the Dung Eater summon. I figured that the Mimic is not aggressive enough to take aggro from the boss. Because I kept getting staggered every time I cast an incantation under the lava, I decided to just use the Swarm of Flies, which we can cast away from the snake. I feel vulnerable casting incantation from afar, but the Dung Eater really proved his worth for taking much of the aggro away from us. With our team effort, we managed to get him to his second phase. At first, I made sure to apply the Frost effect on Rykard to slow him down a bit. I then switched to spamming Swarm of Flies as he is weak to bleed as well. The Dung Eater is the MVP for this fight. He did most of the fighting at close range, which give us a lot of opportunity to cast our incantation at a safe distance. Moog has one of the most annoying spells, which are skulls that does a ton of damage and it follows you around. I'm really lucky to have survived it, but we eventually ran out of healing flask, although we persevered and finally took down Rykard on our third attempt. Now for the first official Lord of the Lands Between, a relic of his former self and the 14th Remembrance boss, the Dragon Lord Placidusax. I still use our best buddy on the game, which is the Dung Eater, to distract this ancient dragon. I straight up run at the back of the dragon, hoping I can freely cast my incantations. However, we got hit by 2 consecutive lightning attacks and finally got blasted by his fire breath, which cut our attempt short. On our second attempt, talking about insanity, I still went for the same route and went straight at his back, but this time I made sure to avoid the lightning strikes before casting my incantations. I cast the Black Blade at first to take some of his health right away. I then followed it up with Black Flames to burn through his HP. I then focused my Glintstone Breath as my main damage dealing incantation. I spammed the Glintstone Breath every chance I get. On the final leg of the boss fight, I made sure to get close to hit him with the full force of our Glintstone Breath, and we finally took down the Dragon Lord on our second attempt. There's only one major boss left, and you know who she is. But before we can face her, we have to first take down Commander Neil. I first took care of his summons by slamming our Dragon Claw at them. I focused on firing our Dragon Breath attacks after we took out his summons. I made sure to avoid his lightning kicks as it does a lot of damage. With a few more Dragon Breaths, we managed to take Commander Neil down on our first attempt. Taking down Neil, let us buy his armor. Before we continue, let us check our outfit. I like how the fur cape looks with our Mimic mask. Now, the final minor boss before we face you-know-who, Loretta. I first used Grail's Roar at her to lower her attack power. I then followed it up with Black Blade to remove a portion of her health. We then blasted her with a couple of Rotten Breath, and finally, striking her down with lightning, we defeated her on our first attempt. Can we actually let her know defeat? Let's see. The 15th and final remembrance boss, Malenia. I summoned our best buddy, the Dung Eater, for this fight as he is aggressive enough to put pressure on Malenia. I paired my seal with a small dagger with Bloodhound Step Ash of War attached on it to give us a way to somehow dodge Malenia's attacks. I mainly use Swarm of Flies as our main incantation for this fight since we can't use long casting incantation. She is really fast and dash towards us when we do long casting animation. Even though I had Bloodhound Step, I still lacked the skill to avoid her waterfowl dance and we were taken down immediately. On our second attempt, I summoned Mimictyr in the hopes that he will spam the incantations that Malenia is weak to, like Frost Breath, Fire Breath, and the Swarm of Flies. It was not going well for Mimic. He lost a lot of health and barely made it to second phase. I was lucky her waterfowl dance did not interrupt our dragon eyes right as she transitioned to second phase. Right when she landed, I hit her with a fully charged dragon eyes. Mimic did not last long on the second phase, as usual, and now I'm fighting a losing fight. I can't freely cast my incantation without getting hit. She can't even sideswipe our Dragon Blast. Our effort was futile and was taken down on our second attempt. On our third attempt, I summoned the Dung Eater this time. I need to bring Malenia down to her second phase before the Dung Eater loses too much of his health. I focus on casting our incantation away from her as much as we can. With the combination of Dragon Breath Incantation and Swarm of Flies, we managed to finally get her to her second phase. Worried that the Dung Eater only has half of his health left, I made sure to blast Malenia right away with my Dragon Eyes while she is distracted. She managed to pull off another waterfowl dance. Lucky for us, we are far enough just to continue blasting her with her Dragon Eyes. She did another Rot Blossom which hit us. After doing that attack, she doesn't move for a few seconds, which give us plenty of time to cast our final Dragon Eyes, and with that we took the final boss down on our third attempt. I hope I've shown you just how powerful incantations can be in the game, and that it inspires you to try an incantation build yourself. I'm not claiming to be an expert at Elden Ring or any Soulsborne game, I'm just simply sharing my way of playing. At the end of the day, it's up to you to decide what kind of Elden Lord you want to be. This world is your oyster, so seize the moment. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please support my channel by liking this video and subscribing if you haven't already. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments, whether it's about today's video, Elden Ring, or any other games we covered in the channel. Thanks for joining me today. This is King Koi, your casual gamer. I hope to see you on the next video. Mabuhay!